on live for Ascension Chats. I am so excited to be on live today. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's live. We have a very special guest. We have the amazing Elizabeth Tran. Her tag is ET Earthling. She's an Akashic Records reader. We'll be kind of diving deep into the records and hearing a little bit about her experience and her story. So hopefully some of this insight can help you out on your journey. If you're watching on the replay or live right now in this moment, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to just post it and we can talk about it at the end if there's anything. All right, let me just invite Elizabeth right now. Thank you guys so much for being here on this live. All right, let's get Elizabeth. Perfect. All right, yeah, it's been a bit cold here in Fremont. It's been a little bit cozy, but I'm excited for the change in weather. So let's see if she's coming online. All right, let me just hit a few buttons. Thank you for being patient with me. I know technology can be a little bit cumbersome. Are you on? Perfect. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, give me 1 second. I'm experiencing a technical. Just give me another.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. All right. How have you guys been doing? How have you guys been feeling with the energies? I know it's been pretty intense recently for me. I've been going through a little bit of a hermit phase, just really diving deep and being mindful of my own energy. Comment below how you guys have been feeling. I'm very curious to know where you guys have been at. All right, let's see. Let's bring her back on. Accept. All right, good to go. Nice. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining me on this live to just chat about Ascension and Akashic Records. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here to talk about the things that I love. Ascension, Akashic Records, Soul Evolution. You were talking earlier about all these energies that we're experiencing on Earth right now. I totally agree. It's been pretty it's a lot, and it does kind of ask for a lot of self-care, a lot of gentleness, to allow things to just unfold the way that they're supposed to. And I think that our conversation is really going to just kind of like bring everything together to kind of help us understand what we're moving through and also how we can help ourselves kind of just flow with the natural course of everything. So thank you again for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, and just for those watching on the replay or tuning in right now, just know that you tuning in this moment, it's activating you on a subconscious level that you're not aware of. Things will start to come forth as you begin to process these on an unconscious level. And so expect, an expansion of your mind with some of the information that we're going to be talking about. And it's time to really just wake up to this new information. And it's something that I honestly came about a couple years ago. So I'm kind of fairly new to the records. So let's dive right in. Let's kind of get started. So just to get started, for those that aren't aware or don't really know you, could you share a bit about your spiritual journey and how you came upon this now moment?
Oh, well, what a loaded
I
question.
know.
So I mean, I would say that I'll try to keep it short. But I would say that it kind of, my spiritual awakening, I guess, started with the passing of my father. He had a heart attack when he was 47, so quite young. I was only 16,
Mhm.
and that kind of sparked this like realization that I guess things could happen that like you don't expect. Like it was a very unexpected event. And so it kind of just like woke me up. I was like, oh, there's more to this reality than like what I've been experiencing. So I started to ask questions like, where did he go?
Yeah.
What happens after you die? And like all these questions started coming in. And I read this book. I believe it's called Life on the Other Side by Sylvia something.
Mhm.
And this was the first initiation I had to the unseen.
Mhm.
Um, and of course, like I just continued to live, and it wasn't until maybe I was 22, and I was experiencing like I was experiencing like mental health issues, like anger, a lot of anger. I was really angry. I was really depressed. I'm like, I hate this world. Like, why is it like this? Just so
Mhm.
confused. Um, and I had this experience when I was 22, when I kind of felt this like I was, it was this random night in Sydney when I was studying abroad, and I had suddenly been washed over by this wave of love is like
Mhm.
the best way I could describe it. It was like this wave of just like these feelings of oneness and
Mhm.
connection to everything and everyone around me. And I had been operating at this level of like anger and depression and sadness and
Mhm.
all these different things. So what I was feeling was so foreign to me, but it felt so good and it felt so natural. And I had realized at this moment, this is who we actually are. Like we are this sensation and this knowing that we are all one and we are all connected. Um, but this feeling didn't last. Like this feeling didn't stay too long because it's like if you think about frequencies, um, and like states of being, if you're operating at like this level of sadness and anger, if we were to quantify energy in numbers, let's say anger and depression were at like 100, 200, and then love, if we were to quantify that, it would be like 900, and enlightenment would be like 1000, right? So like if you're operating at 100, 200, and then you can't jump from 200 to 1000. And so that requires a lot of inner work. That requires a lot of consistent, um, like yeah, consistency and showing up and just kind of transmuting all these different emotions moving through your body to reach that higher level of energy. So I spent, yeah, I'm 28, or I'm turning 28 next month. So I spent, since 22, just really doing the inner work, like really doing the shadow work, really paying attention to my thoughts and where they were coming from and the root causes of my triggers and all this, all this, the inner work that we got to do to like get where
Mhm.
we are. So yeah, across the, I actually came across the galactic Akashic records before I came across like, the Akashic records by themselves. And I got this reading from this wonderful woman named Debbie Solaris. And she, um, after her reading, like she had told me about my past lives, and she had told me where like my starseed origins were like where I come from, galactically speaking, and it resonated so much. I was like, whoa, like this makes so much sense. And so when she released her first course for Galactic Akashic reading, I was in there. I was like, I love this stuff. Like this is where I'm at.
Mhm.
This is what I care about. This is what I love. I'm gonna get the certification. And this is actually quite recent. So it's been less than a year since I've gotten my Galactic Akashic reading certification. But I'm so passionate about it and I love it so much that I've been doing readings like every week, just really honing the skill. So here I am now, just feeling really like I found my thing, which I think people spend lifetimes, like looking for their thing, looking for what they're really passionate about and looking for their service to the world. So I feel very lucky, and just like guided by my higher self and my guides to be here now, and to meet people like you who are like also on very similar journeys. And like we're just here to raise the vibration of the planet and the collective, literally just by being ourselves and doing what we love and offering our gifts to the world. So that's my little summary
No,
of where I come from and how I got here.
thank you. I appreciate you sharing that. I know sometimes it's can be hard to be vulnerable, but it's just a testament to how much work you've kind of done over the years. And I know for a lot of us that are now are in the work or in the journey that there's a point where we couldn't even, share these things to ourselves. But now that we're
Mhm.
being vulnerable and being able to positively express it, that's a huge kind of just sign and of how far we've gone. And so thank you so much for being vulnerable. And there's a lot of stuff to unpack from that bit, but I think it's important just to show the journey and how people can evolve over time. So I want to kind of, for those that maybe aren't really aware about the Akashic records, in your
Yeah.
words, from your perspective, could you kind of briefly define like what are the Akashic? What is it?
Yeah, so the Akashic record, so the word Akasha comes from the Sanskrit word ether. So there are five elements. There's earth, water, fire, um, wait, there's earth? Help me out here. There's earth, there's air, water, fire, and then there's ether, right? And ether being the Akasha. So this is like the non-physical element that kind of like ties it all together. Um, this is like what you would call like it goes. It's like air. We know it's there. We don't see it, right? And like ether is like that next level, that next element. So in the aspects of the Akashic records is kind of how I see it. It holds the information and all the stories that all souls have ever lived. So if we were to kind of apply it to ourselves, your Akashic record would be your soul's evolutionary journey.
Mm,
And this is kind of, this aligns with the belief that we have more than one life, right?
mm,
That there is reincarnation, that we carry on our story with each life that we experience, right? So um, it's not like we don't come from anywhere and like all of our like characteristics and our personality and like the things that we experience just don't come from anywhere. We actually carry them on from another lifetime. And so the Akashic records, when you tap into them, you are able to explore where you come from and also where you are now and also where you're going. So it's a very interesting concept. And I think that's like it absolutely fascinates me.
No, yeah, and it kind of what I'm getting from it, it's an ability to see things from a bigger perspective, and sometimes I think that's just what a lot of people need because it's so easy to be kind of so in this physical reality, and then we get caught up with all the day-to-day like tasks and money and taxes and issues and physical and mental problems. So I
Yes.
totally get kind of how the Akashic records can be helpful. So I'm kind of curious, how did accessing the records manifest for you the very first time? Like, what was your experience? Like, was it like, whoa, like you were overwashed with like visions? How was your first experience?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I just want to say that I believe that we are all tapping into our Akashic records unknowingly.
Mm,
I believe that when we ask certain questions about our life and the things that we're just, like, especially when we kind of ask existential questions like why am I here, what am I doing, what am I supposed to do next, that information I feel comes from the Akashic records. It comes from the timelines that you've experienced, um, and so I feel like my first encounter with the Akashic records have been subconscious. As soon as I'm in the mirror and I'm like, who are you? Like, who am I? Like I'm asking the Akashic records, and what I get is like, so one of the, like I guess in the beginning of my journey when I would look in the mirror and ask who am I would kind of get this sensation that I were my eyes, right? Like it was through my eyes that I could kind of sense that there's more than me, than my body. And
mm,
that was, I feel like, the beginning of kind of accessing my records. It's the idea that I am more than this, that there is more than this.
mm,
So over time, um, these questions that you ask become a little more specific. And so the answers you get are also a little more specific. And I want to emphasize how important it is to ask questions and to like be curious, because that opens up the door to receive this information. And that's all the Akashic records are. It's like you ask a question and you receive an answer. It's like a book, right? And you're like kind of control F, like
Mhm.
kind of type of thing where it's like, this is what I'm looking for, but you don't know what to look for if you don't know what to type in for, like, like control F blank. Like if you don't know what you're looking for, then you don't know what you're looking to receive.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's the kind of art of accessing the Akashic records. But I do believe that everyone does it. And Akashic readers like myself just do it a little bit more intentionally and with a little bit more specificity, specification. Yeah. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that definitely answers the question. And I like how you made a point how everyone is kind of accessing it, whether consciously or unconsciously. And I kind of thought, kind of came to my mind. It's almost like when you get those maybe bouts of inspiration or maybe feeling of deja vu, or does that kind of maybe sound like examples of when you could access the records in a way?
Yeah. I think it's like physically I feel it like chills, right?
Mm,
Like that inspiration you're talking about, it comes as like this like really positive wave that like comes to your body and you're like, oh, that's an idea that I really
yeah.
like, and like it feels really good. I feel like that is a form of accessing your own records.
Mm,
Um, because it could be that, there's an aspect of you
mhm,
from a parallel life who has the answer to the question that you're asking and is literally like sending it to you, across timelines, because it's all connected, it's all happening all at once, which is also another interesting concept where like time isn't linear,
yeah. Oh, and kind of powerful because as you were speaking and talking about how, there could be a different perspective of you from like a higher dimension or higher version of you. It's like as you were speaking, I almost like was like seeing like an imprint of like your other self. I was kind of tripping out and to share about your starseed history and kind of where your soul originates from or where it's most likely kind of synchronizing with.
Oh, that's also a big one. I am, I'm not used to talking about myself in this way because people are like, what the heck are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm just not from here,
Mhm,
like that's the most like basic way I can put it. So there are different star systems in our galaxy. Some examples would be like the Pleiades, Orion, the Andromedan constellation. And the idea is that so many of us on this planet right now living in human bodies actually originate from these different constellations. And so we call these people star seeds, because they're seeded from the stars, right? Here to perform a job or a mission here on Earth, or just to be themselves, or, simply just to experience being human.
mhm,
There are all types of reasons why star seeds are born on Earth. So for myself, I really resonate, actually not being from this galaxy, not being of the Milky Way galaxy. I resonate with having come from the Andromedan galaxy, which is outside of the Milky
mhm,
Way. And some people do feel this. So it depends, there are different characteristics that starseeds can have, and depending on what you resonate with and like the different characteristics that come through, you can probably like figure out intuitively like where you come from. Most starseeds will feel that they are not from this planet, and it explains a lot of their feelings of just like maybe disconnection from humanity, confusion from like all the wars that are happening. Like, I don't understand why people do this. Like, I don't understand why there's so much suffering. Because these other star systems, the places that they come from, actually operate at the frequency of love. And
mhm,
so when we come to this planet where there's so much suffering and so much density, it really creates this disconnection, because we know love, and we often do not experience that here in our day-to-day life.
mhm.
So Yeah, you yourself are a star seed. We're actually from the same star, like from the same galaxy. So like it's really lovely that we're, there's a reason why we connect and like talk about these things because we are like doing the work that we came here to do and sharing our wisdom and the things that like our perspective of this experience. It's quite the honor, and it's quite the journey. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for unpacking that. I know it's a lot to kind of delve into in a broad sense, but for those of you that know, I had an Akashic record reading with Elizabeth back in August, and she tapped into my galactic origin and kind of tapped into definitely more Andromedan and angelic, and that's kind of what I've been resonating pretty much my whole life, really growing up feeling like I didn't belong anywhere, didn't feel like I belonged on Earth. I always grew up having this feeling of like yearning for home, even though I was home, or feeling like even though I'm like in this loving family, I didn't really feel like part of this family. So that's kind of what a lot of starseeds may feel and growing up when they're younger, and those kind of experiences are tend to be traumatizing. And people think trauma to be, more severe cases, but even these that are emotional and mental can also be a little bit traumatizing. But it's part Starseed experience to uncover as we grow older. So it's something that now that we're at this age, we're starting to really delve into. So thank you for sharing that. So the Akashic Records, because it doesn't really delve with time doesn't really constrict the Akashic Records.
Mhm.
What are some perspectives or insights you've gained from reading the records from clients or people? Do you notice patterns or similarities that a lot of people that you just read are coming through or coming up?
Um, yeah, for sure. Another excellent question. I find that people, most people don't actually know like the extent to who they actually are. But when it comes through during a reading, it's so like resonating, like it feels so right that it's like they knew all along. It's like they didn't know, but they knew. And so I'm just like the readings themselves, I'm just translating information. It's like I kind of see this like energy, you could call it an energetic book, um, that I'm reading. Occasionally, with star seeds, I'll see like a portal and I will go through this portal and I'll end up on another planet completely. And it's very interesting because even if my client isn't fully conscious of where they come from, as soon as we like step through the portal and I'm describing what I'm seeing, this familiarity like comes through. They're like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." And I'm like, "Yep." This is who you are. This is where you come from. This is like a part of you that exists, right now. So yeah, I guess some other things that come through is something that you mentioned. There's so not necessarily like not everyone necessarily experiences trauma in the sense of like something horrible like happened to them in this lifetime and now they have to work through to heal it. Um, a lot of those that I work with experience trauma literally just from being on this planet. Like literally just from like being born and like I had this one client who, when I tapped into her records, she kind of showed up as like this child who was like in fetal position. And she was living in what felt like a flower, like a beautiful, like nurturing flower that was giving her everything that she needed, that was filling her with so much love. And she just knew she didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Like she was just like all curled up. She was like, it's so safe here, it's so warm here, it's so loving here. I don't want to leave. Um, and it's because her soul knew that um, that it would be really difficult to be on Earth. Um, and so this is also like a common theme that I experience with clients, and we work through to like the session is mostly about kind of helping them understand that it's not them, like it's not their fault, and there's nothing to actually like heal through or necessarily like overanalyze about their experience in order to heal through the trauma. It's just, hey, like this is just kind of how it is, and you're here to be yourself and you're here to be gentle with yourself because your frequency is not like it's not of this world, but it helps this world. It helps this world heal. And so if you can learn to feel safe in your body, to feel safe in this experience, that is the greatest gift you can offer to the collective and to the planet, to Mama Gaia. And that in of itself is a very big job for a lot of us. So yeah.
That's, I think you touched on a lot of important points, especially how our own unique healing journey is affecting everyone else in the collective. During these times, it's easy to feel maybe guilty that you're not doing enough or you're not speaking out enough on certain situations or agendas playing out. But in that moment, we lower our frequency. We end up operating out of fear and guilt and judgment. And that's something that it's so easy to delve into. But in that moment, we can easily transmute that with our conscious awareness. So I like how you tapped into that. And also, it's interesting how you mentioned um, a lot of star seeds, there's some type of portal that you envision, and I wanted to kind of ask a bit about that part. So, when you go through this portal in the Akashic record, are you traveling through like a different dimension, or is it just a different frequency?
Um, I believe that it's a little bit of both. It's almost like so depending on the dimension, like the frequency of the dimension that we're traveling to, the portal will kind of show up differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had a reading with Oracle of Avalon, who's in the chat right now, who just said that Earth is the ghetto of the universe, which yes. And so I hope you don't mind me sharing this. But when we tapped into his records, the vortex that showed up was actually kind of like it was downwards, which was really interesting. And I felt like it was because we were going back in time, like back to like the most ancient of times, right? Like to the times of like I almost feel like the beginning of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there are other times when I tap into other star seeds and we will go into a different dimension. Like I'll see it like up in the sky, like almost where the sun would be, and we would go through that way, and it would be like, say, like the Pleiades, right? Which is, but also like there is still kind of like this
Mm-hmm.
sequence of events that happen, that kind of all converge. But I think like the level of frequency and just essence of that dimension, it'll show up differently. Like the portal will look a little bit different. Um, it's kind of hard to conceptualize because I'm seeing it like with my third eye, and it's like more of like a feeling
Mm-hmm.
with the vision. It's like it's like a whole body kind of like all sensory experience. So yeah, yeah, it's a different feeling and also a different visual. Yeah.
No, that's fair, but I appreciate you trying to translate in a way that's digestible and kind of I do have a kind of a better feel for what the records are and how, even myself I can access it even though I'm not really practicing it. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to get into another question, just to kind of give everyone a better sense of the energetic climate of what's kind of going on in present day with wherever you're at. What, from your observation and from your perspective, either from delving into the records or just your day-to-day life, how would you describe this climate that we're in right now, from like a bigger perspective?
We are in very important times right now. We are living through like such a cosmic like event. It's like this is being written in the Akashic records as like when when other beings look at the records of like the earth and all the humans that like hold on. I need to be able to like actually like use words to really emphasize how big of a thing, like what we're experiencing on Earth is as human beings.
Mm.
There's so much respect for those living on Earth right now. There's this huge like lottery to be a human on
Mm.
Earth because this is such an important cosmic event. I'm like, hold on, I'm feeling with these energies and I'm just like, okay, let me ground them and translate them.
You got this.
So there is this evolution happening. And what we see with our eyes and what we see on the news is very much a lot of suffering. There's a lot of evil. There's a lot of like war and violence and crimes against humanity. We need to understand that this fight is not amongst ourselves. It is not amongst human beings. This is not one group of human beings versus another group of human beings. Because of the perspective that I have as a galactic Akashic reader, I understand this to be a war on consciousness. I just want to like really emphasize that human beings are good. We are pure. We are innocent at our core, which can be debatable among different people, right? It's like I feel like that's like the biggest philosophical question that like the ancient Greeks had, like are human beings good or evil, you know? Like why do we need government? But it's because we're such a we come from source. We are love at our purest essence. And we come from the light. And so what we're experiencing on Earth is this polarity. It's this balancing between light and dark, which is the wars that we're seeing on like the ground level. As above, so below. So what is happening, and I hope I can kind of really express this in like the most understandable way. There are So every like things that happen on one dimension is reflected in other dimensions. And so what's happening on Earth is reflected in the higher dimensions. It is reflected in the galaxy. And so what's happening is there is a balance that's happening, or there's like a balance that's like finding itself. There's a yin and a yang finding its center. And so we shouldn't give too much energy in all what we see as darkness. We shouldn't give it too much energy. And that the reason why I say that is because we have a choice to embody a certain energy in our body.
Mm.
We, we can choose to embody love and hope and while maintaining this realistic understanding of what's happening on this planet. Like we're not bypassing by choosing love. It is actually the harder thing to do when we see what's happening and we accept what's happening, but we believe that love will conquer all.
Mm.
We believe that source and love is the most powerful force in the universe. And yes, the darkness is real. Yes, the evil is real. But are we going to give that power? Are we going to join in on the suffering? Are we going to give that energy by not being able to control our own emotions? So our job as an individual is to hold awareness and compassion for all the things that are happening that we don't agree with, and yet choosing love and choosing the light and anchoring that in our bodies, because that is actually a really practical thing to do. It's not just, oh, love and light, I'm just going to be toxically positive and, disregard people suffering. No, it's holding space. Okay, I see that there is suffering, and still I choose love. And still, I believe that everything and everyone is going to heal from this, and we are all going to converge into what is truly who we are, and we are going to find peace on this planet. We're going to create peace.
Mm.
Sorry, we're not going to find it. We're going to actively create
Mm.
it by healing ourselves and healing what is stagnant and dense in our own bodies and healing our own triggers, you know, and like, because if everyone in the world saved themselves, no one would need saving. And I stand by that 100%.
Mhm.
So it's really an individual healing journey. I hope that answered your question. Um, yeah.
No, it definitely did. And I think a big part of something that you mentioned is about despite what's going on, we can still consciously choose love. Despite the suffering, we can still choose to hold space and have empathy. Despite the trauma that's happening, we can still choose the higher frequency of compassion and holding space for what's going on. And I think, ooh, I'm getting
Yeah,
triggers as I'm saying.
right. It's like it's coming through.
Well, I'm sure those of you who are watching, you feel it. Like I feel it in my heart that this is literally the moment. This is the biggest impact that this world is seeing. And like you mentioned, I really liked how you mentioned what's happening in this dimension is affecting all other dimensions, right? And
Hmm.
I think a huge reason why a lot of our guides or even the people watching, like your guides, your higher self, are really coming online to activate the shit out of you because the more you work on yourself, you're helping someone 5,000 miles away, even though you don't realize it. So it's a huge impact for what you're doing, and it's so easy to doubt your journey, right? It's like, oh, I'm not that important. Let me just let other people do the work. Oh, what my, meaningless job is doing for myself, it's not going to help anybody else. But at the end of the day, it is because how you exude that in your day to day life, whether you're saying hi to the cashier at the grocery market, right? I remember the other day, one of the cashiers was like, "Hi, how are you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I love your bracelet." And she instantly lit out of her auto. And she's like, "Oh my God, thank you." And like went on this long story. Just that little instant, her mood shifts. So don't doubt your experience and how you can impact other people because you're doing the work and I feel it. Everyone in the world is feeling it. So thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing that because I think it's super important for everyone to kind of see it from that perspective versus fear and oh my God, tragedy, right?
Hmm.
Just to kind of wrap things up, as a last message, what is one message that you can part with anyone watching that will help them come back to themselves and recenter in their heart space if you had one?
Mm. Mm. One message. Okay. Well, I just want to take this moment for us to all kind of just connect to our heart space here and take a deep breath with me in through your nose and let it out. Okay. So, hmm, home is right here. Home is right here in your heart space. And you cannot stray from home. You are always home. And so you can always return right here into your heart space, whether that's by taking a deep breath, whether that's by closing your eyes, whether that's putting your hands on your heart. It's so easy to get distracted and to feel anxious and to feel like we're not doing enough or that we are not enough. But when you listen to your heart and when you settle into this heart space, then this is where you remember like you are love and you are always enough. You are always doing and being enough simply by existing. Existing is a lot of work, dude. Like it's a lot of work, especially here. And so like give yourself grace and love and compassion for everything that you've been through and how far you have come because it takes so much strength and like spirit is just coming through and anyone who's watching here like your guides are here and your guides are holding you and there's this completely unseen reality where you are supported in every way possible and connecting to your heart reminds you of that you are not alone, that you are always protected, that you are always guided, and you are always home. So that's my message.
Thank you That was wonderful. I definitely felt that in my heart space. Where can people find you to either book a session with you? Kind of
Yeah.
your what your handles are.
Yeah, so my handle is et.earthling. I have a link in my bio that will take you to both my website and my booking calendar. If you want to read a little bit more of what the Akashic records are, there's some information on my website. It's galacticakasha.com, and I can write that in the comments real quick. Galacticakasha.com. Oops. Whoops. Hold on, I misspelled it, and now I'm taking up time. Okay.
No, you're
Okay. So yeah, and you can always message me on Instagram if you have any questions, comments, concerns, and I'm always here, open and happy to help. So thank you, Brian, for having me. This was so
huge.
fun. Words are falling out of my ears.
That's
So um, yeah, this was such a wonderful experience, and I'm actually looking forward to more Ascension chats from you. I'm so excited to see who comes through. You've been a wonderful host, and I love the questions you asked, and I love talking to you. So I'm so grateful for being able to have this experience with you.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Feel free to DM us if you have any questions. See you in the next one. Bye guys.
Bye.